victim all the time.
Ooh,
it gets on my nerves.
So everybody just heard everything Martell said.
No,
And
because
Martell said I'm playing the victim.
I wish one day people will see the person that you really are.
People have been following this situation for a long time, but now it feels like something has shifted. The tension is no longer subtle or hidden behind polished Instagram posts or brief interviews where everything is brushed aside with a smile. It's louder, more intense, and far more serious. After months, maybe even years of back and forth, unanswered questions, and ongoing drama, Martell Holt is now facing something he can't simply talk his way out of. This isn't about social media opinions or public perception anymore. This is about the courtroom, where image doesn't matter. And this time, it goes beyond reality TV drama or online exchanges. It's about accountability. At the center of it all are the children, and the question of whether the man who presents himself as a dedicated father will finally be held responsible in a meaningful way. What happens next could completely change how people see him. On the other side, Melody Sherry is no longer staying silent. She's stepping into a different kind of battle, one that isn't loud or messy, but serious and deliberate. And once this situation reaches a judge, there's no controlling the outcome. To understand how things reached this point, you have to look back. This didn't begin in a courtroom. It started as a love story that many people believed in. Before the conflicts, the public fallout, and the growing tension, Martell and Melody were seen as a power couple. When Love and Marriage Huntsville first aired, they appeared to have it all: a strong relationship, a beautiful family, thriving businesses, and a life that looked stable from the outside.
Bust Martell in his face. Now did you cheat on him too? Please give me the goddamn answer.
Only time I talked to anybody was when I went with Martell no more, and I never went back.
We talking about when you was coming for me, hurting me, and every little
I can't do the
thing you do. Melody, she used to leave the house, say, I'm going to the hotel
Yeah, let's
for
talk
2
about
days.
So everybody does what they need to do for their me time, for their calming down time. And now because you got caught cheating all these years, I was cheating? Man, get that shit out of here.
That's what made everything that followed even more impactful. On the surface, viewers saw smiles and success, but behind the scenes, the foundation was already beginning to break, and not in minor ways. These weren't problems that could be fixed with a quick talk or a simple apology. There were ongoing patterns, repeated actions, and trust that had been deeply damaged. Melody wasn't ignoring the situation. She made real efforts to save her marriage. She spoke up, she tried to work through the issues, and she fought harder than most people realize. But when one person is the only one putting in that effort, it eventually becomes overwhelming. And that's exactly what happened. The turning point wasn't just about betrayal, it was about clarity. She realized the life she believed she was building was no longer genuine, that the man she trusted wasn't showing up the way he needed to, and that staying would only continue to hurt her. So she made the difficult decision to walk away. But ending the marriage didn't mean leaving the challenges behind. In many ways, things became even more complicated after the divorce. It was no longer just about a broken relationship, it became about co-parenting. 4 children now depended on both parents for stability, consistency, and support. And that's where things began to fall apart in a completely different way.
Playing mind games, that's just what he does. Like him showing up here today with these flowers, this smile on his face, like Prince Charming, when we all know that he's responsible for all of the stuff happening on social media pertaining to me. That could change people's opinions about me by him giving these false narratives. He's responsible for that.
From the outside, Martell continued to appear present and involved. Social media showed moments with the kids, outings, smiles, and family time that looked sincere. And to be fair, those moments likely were real. But what people began to question was everything that happened in between those highlights. Because parenting isn't just about the visible, picture-perfect moments. It's about the everyday responsibilities no one posts about. Things like school runs, doctor visits, homework, emotional support, financial responsibilities, and maintaining structure and consistency. According to Melody, she was the one handling most, if not all, of that. For a long time, she chose not to involve the courts. She kept things private, trying to manage the situation quietly because she didn't want to create more conflict, especially for the sake of her children. She wanted peace, but peace only works when both people are equally committed. Over time, it became clear that things weren't as balanced as they should have been. There were concerns about inconsistency, questions surrounding financial support, and doubts about reliability. While Martell continued to defend himself publicly, Melody was dealing with the day-to-day reality behind closed doors. What stands out, though, is that she didn't immediately expose everything. She showed patience. She gave multiple chances. She tried to handle things without making the situation messy, until it reached a point where she couldn't anymore. Because eventually, patience stops feeling like strength and starts becoming a burden, and that's what everything shifted. Melody made a decision that changed the course of the situation. She chose to take legal action, not for attention or revenge, but because she needed structure, consistency, and something official in place to protect her children's well-being. Once those legal steps were taken, everything became serious. This was no longer social media drama or something to argue about online. It became a matter for the legal system, where facts matter more than opinions. And for Martell, that's when things truly escalated. Because in court, it's not about what you say, it's about what you can prove.
Focus. And then those Scots had to take me out of my... they had to take me out of that.
When a situation reaches this level, everything comes under scrutiny. Income is examined, financial records are reviewed, living conditions are assessed, and patterns of behavior are brought to light. At that point, the public image someone has carefully built doesn't carry the same influence it once did. What makes it even more intense is that these cases often go beyond finances. It's not just about money, it's about stability, the environment the children are growing up in, and whether both parents are truly meeting their needs. If concerns are raised, the court has the authority to dig much deeper, and once that process begins, it's no longer something anyone can control. At the same time, Martell didn't remain quiet. He spoke out, defended himself, and made it clear that he disagreed with how the situation was being portrayed. From his point of view, he felt misunderstood. But this is where things become more complex, because it's no longer about one parent's perspective, it's about patterns. And when similar concerns begin to surface from multiple sources, it changes how everything is perceived. Over time, there have been subtle indications from other areas of Martell's life that point to similar challenges, especially regarding consistency and support. And when those patterns begin to align, they become much harder to overlook.
Yeah, they come and go. But as women, we have to have a certain amount of respect for one another as to where, you're looking at a man like, regardless of what he told you, you have to get it together. And this too shall pass because Ariane been that bitch all her life.
Fans began paying closer attention, not just to what was being said, but also to what was being avoided. The conversation started to shift. It was no longer just about who was right or wrong. People began asking deeper, more meaningful questions. Is he truly showing up as a father should? Is he contributing in ways that genuinely matter? Does the image he presents align with reality? And most importantly, what is actually best for the children? Because in the end, that's what this is really about. Not ego, not reputation, not winning arguments, but for children who deserve stability in every sense. That's what makes the situation so emotional. While the adults continue going back and forth, the children are growing, watching, and forming their own understanding. They notice consistency. They notice presence. They recognize who they can rely on, and those impressions stay with them. For Melody, this isn't just a legal step, it's a protective one. She's not trying to tear Martell down. She's trying to create something steady and reliable for her children, something that doesn't change based on moods, finances, or convenience. That's why she's willing to go this far, because sometimes love means setting firm boundaries, even when it's uncomfortable. For Martell, this moment could go in two very different directions. It could be a turning point, a wake-up call that pushes him to step up, become consistent, and meet the expectations placed on him. Or it could lead to a situation where the court has to enforce what should have been done willingly. And that's where the real risk lies. Once a judge makes a decision, it's no longer flexible or open to interpretation. It becomes a legal obligation, and failing to meet that obligation carries consequences that go far beyond public opinion. What makes this story even more powerful is the emotional weight behind it. No one starts a family expecting it to end up in a courtroom just to figure out how to support their children. There's a deep sense of disappointment and hurt in that reality, something that doesn't simply go away. You can see it in how Melody has handled everything. She hasn't been loud or attention-seeking. She hasn't tried to prove anything publicly. She's simply reached a point where she's done waiting, done hoping things will fix themselves, and done carrying more than she should have to. That kind of quiet strength speaks volumes. It shows this isn't about drama, it's about real life. And real life doesn't revolve around image. As this situation continues to unfold, people are watching closely, not just for entertainment, but because it feels real and relatable. It reflects situations many people face, just on a much larger stage, and that's why it resonates. Behind all the headlines and opinions are real people dealing with real consequences. A mother trying to protect her children, a father being held accountable, and a system that responds only to facts, not emotions. Now, everything depends on what happens next. Will Martell rise to the occasion and prove he can meet expectations? Or will this become the moment where everything he's avoided finally catches up to him? Because once the court makes its decision, there's no returning to how things were. No more uncertainty, no more unanswered questions, only clarity. And while clarity can be uncomfortable, it's often what finally brings real change. One thing is certain, Melody isn't stepping back this time. Not quietly, not privately, not anymore. When it comes to her children, she's choosing certainty over hope, and that decision is about to change everything.